Hello everyone, I'm Meghan Sullivan and welcome to my PlayStation 5 review of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, developed and published by Square Enix for the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Switch. As you may already know, this is a part remake and part HD remaster of the 2007 PSP game, which in turn was a prequel to the 1997 RPG Final Fantasy VII. Crisis Core was a game loved by many people, but does this updated version stand the test of time, and can it break free of its PSP shackles? Well, the answer is both happily yes and sadly no. But as always, let's start with the good stuff. By the way, if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel, and I'll bring you more RPG goodness in the future. Thank you. In Crisis Core, you play as Zack Fair, a young operative in Soldier, the military branch of a giant corporation known as Shinra, headquartered in the city of Midgard. Together with his friend and mentor Angeal, Zack must investigate the mass disappearance of soldier operatives, an incident that seems to be tied to a former soldier gone rogue named Genesis. To do so, he, i.e. you, the player, must visit different locations trying to uncover the truth of what's really going on, while taking on a bevy of enemies trying to stop you at every turn. In short, the story is almost exactly the same as it was in 2007, but everything else gets a noticeable facelift, including the sound, combat mechanics, and especially the visuals. Square Enix redid both the 3D models and all of the backgrounds for Crisis Core, and I for one appreciate this because they definitely look way better than they did in 2007, although for the time it actually looked pretty good. Gone are the grainy, jaggy edges, and instead you have characters that look smooth and in focus. The lighting and colors are also quite nice to look at. Unfortunately, Square Enix didn't fully commit itself to doing a remake, so although the visuals are much improved, you can still see the dusty old bones of the PSP version sticking out a little bit. There are times when environmental textures are kind of blah, and character models look, weird? But hey, like I said, it's still a major improvement overall, and the sound is a lot better too. It's been enhanced quite a bit, and the soundtrack, which oscillates between super dramatic and super rocking, is rich and clear, so huzzah for that. But the most important upgrade, and the thing I'm most enthusiastic about, is the combat. I always say that a good game must be a good game first, and Crisis Core's snappy, action-based combat is just that. It's good and it's fun. Since Crisis Core is action-based, there's no party to manage in combat. It's just Zack, his giant buster sword, well, eventually a giant buster sword, he doesn't really get that until like halfway through the story, and a handful of Mako-infused materia he can quickly switch between in order to dole out painful elemental damage to all who stand in his way. These materia spheres, 6 of which can be equipped at once and are conveniently color-coded and divided into various categories, can also be used to boost stats and nullify debuffs. As Zack acquires more materia via side quests and materia fusion, i.e. combining 2 different materia spheres to create an even more powerful materia sphere, the bite-sized combat encounters take on an enjoyable rhythm of attack, dodge, block, and heal. It's a satisfying gameplay loop. There's also a fun bit of unpredictability to battles, thanks to the digital mind wave mechanic. This weird slot machine thingy constantly rolls while Zack is in a fight. Well, unless an enemy has used a curse to stop it, of course. And every time a pair of 3 numbers or images comes up, Zack gets some type of benefit. For example, if 3 of the same number come up, Zack will get a useful buff in battle. If Zack gets all 7s, his level goes up, and if he gets 3 images of a character he has a connection to, he'll be able to perform a limit break tied to that specific character while reliving memories he shared with that particular person. An obvious nod to the importance of his memories and the role they'll play in Final Fantasy VII. Now, I don't remember being all that crazy about this mechanic when I played the PSP version back in the day, but on the PlayStation 5 it feels pretty well balanced, and it's fun to watch enemies get decimated during limit break sequences. And I do mean decimated. Crisis Core is not exactly a challenging experience. You don't actually have to level grind in this game in order to steamroll your opponents. You just need to find or fuse together the right materia, and voila, you're an unstoppable killing machine. So if you want a challenge, I suggest cranking the difficulty up to hard mode and unlocking the more advanced mini-missions, which by the way yield some pretty useful materia. Now, I admit these missions aren't always the most exciting thing, there's not a whole lot of variety to the dungeons or enemies to be honest, but they never feel like a slog because they're super short. Enemy encounters and missions in Crisis Core last anywhere from just a couple of minutes to 0.03 seconds. Now, some people might be disappointed by how short and easy these battles are, but remember, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is built over the foundations of a PSP game, which means it was meant to be played on the go. So battles had to be something players could easily jump in and out of. And even though I'm playing on a stationary console, i.e. the PlayStation 5, I still like the convenience of being able to do a few missions and then deck out of the game whenever I need to. As a working adult, this is super convenient, which makes it pretty great. So I guess what I'm saying is I really like the combat. I wish I could be as enthusiastic about the story, but this is the weakest part of Crisis Core by a long shot. So here's the thing about the story. People are going to fall into two camps. The "it's so bad it's good and I love it" camp, and the "it's so bad it's just bad and I hate it" camp. And at first I was in one camp, and then as the story progressed, I fell into the other camp. Look, I'm sorry hardcore Final Fantasy VII fans, but I'm just gonna come out and say it. The story is terrible, and I 100% blame the bad writing. And no, it's not a localization problem, although the English voiceover can be kind of rough in places. I don't even blame the voice actors for that. I think they tried their best, but it's like the VO director looked at the script, looked at the lip flap, was like, I have no idea what's going on or how to fix this, and gave up. Because how do you fix such terrible writing? Even switching to the Japanese voiceover, it's painfully clear that the writing is the problem. So here's the thing. Crisis Core is meant to fill in the gaps of the rather confusing origins of Jenova from Final Fantasy VII. Okay, I get that. I see what the writers are going for. But instead of doing the obvious thing and focusing on the characters who will eventually be the most affected by this origin story, namely Zack, Aerith, Cloud, and Sephiroth, the writers inexplicably focus on two new characters who are aggressively retconned into the story. Angeal, Zack's angsty mentor who spouts cringy one-liners like, "embrace your dreams." And Genesis, a pedantic, narcissistic diva who does little more than brush back his bangs while quoting a bunch of poetic gobbledygook. And it's not even good poetic gobbledygook. Now, when I first watched the cutscenes, I laughed myself silly. The characters are so melodramatic and so over the top that I figured the whole thing was meant to be parody. But the longer I played, the longer I realized it wasn't meant to be funny. The writers really thought I was going to take this seriously. But how can I when two drama queens are sucking up all the air in the room and a bunch of esoteric nonsense is being crammed down my throat? I don't care about Genesis or Angeal. I care about Zack. I care about Aerith. I care about Cloud. I even care about Sephiroth, who I'm pleasantly surprised to say comes across as a pretty chill dude for most of Crisis Core. Well, you know, until he's not. I wanted to hang out with them and learn more about them. I wanted to see them laugh and cry and have quiet moments together. Instead, these important characters are kind of regulated to the sidelines and only occasionally pop up to interact with Zack, either in person or via emails that appear with annoying frequency on Zack's flip phone. Although I will say the flip phone is a cool way to access the menu system, and I appreciate that the UI is clean and easy to navigate. At any rate, despite my ragging on the story, I really did enjoy my time with Crisis Core. It's a zippy 15-hour experience, longer if you deep dive the side missions, and it moves quickly, so you never feel that the story or combat are too drawn out. Yes, the writing is atrocious and the story is nonsensical and takes itself way too seriously, but the improvement in the graphics, sound, and combat more than make up for these flaws. And at $50, it's not a bad deal at all. I'd say if you're already invested in Final Fantasy VII, then it's worth your time. Although I get the feeling that if you're invested, then you've already bought the game. So with that said, what do you think of Crisis Core? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you later.